After her father died of COVID, Kristen Urquiza hit the campaign trail hard. She had hoped that the election of Joe Biden would bring a competent and compassionate approach to dealing with the pandemic. This is what she had to say at the Democratic National Convention in 2020.
We need a leader who will step in on day one and do his job, to care. One of the last things that my father said to me was that he felt betrayed by the likes of Donald Trump. And so when I cast my vote for Joe Biden, I will do it for my dad.
And Kristen Urquiza is with us now. Thank you so much for being with us again. I'm so sorry. I know that soon you'll be coming up on 2 years without your dad, and I know it probably feels like yesterday that you just lost him. But I wanted to talk to you, Kristen, because you've been so clear about what you expect when it comes to a response to COVID with your personal investment in it. You'd famously said that in your dad's obituary, his only pre-existing condition was trusting Donald Trump and that he paid for it with his life. Has Joe Biden earned that vote you cast, though?
Listen, I am grateful that Joe Biden is the president. I know that the response that we are getting from the Biden administration is 80%, 100% more than what we would have gotten from his competitor. But it's still not the plan that we were promised, yet the plan that we need. And the plan that we have right now has been mostly vaccines only. And as you can tell, that hasn't gotten us the full distance that we need to go to get out of this pandemic, save livelihoods as well as lives.
Clearly, there's been a consideration of folks who don't want as many restrictions, right, as some Democrats do. How do you see how the Biden administration has factored those folks, and some of them are Democrats, into the equation versus what you expect?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the Biden administration has gotten a lot of curveballs. Some of them were unexpected, but the fact remains that we should have expected things like surges, especially whenever the entire world is not vaccinated. We're going to continue to be vulnerable to this virus until we double down on the things that we know that we can do, such as continuing to supply an ample amount of tests as well as masks to people across the country.
Can you specifically, where do you think, you mentioned masks, you mentioned tests, any other places where specifically you think that he should be doing better?
Absolutely. The expiration of the OSHA standard for healthcare workers is of grave concern. People who are non-remote workers overall feel as if they're expendable. So I think we need to really zero in on what does worker safety look like given the constraints that we have. But overall, one of my biggest concerns is just the person who's in charge of the pandemic response, Jeffrey Zients. He's a large donor, a businessman, a former Facebook board member who doesn't have a background in public health, let alone health equity. And at this point in time, we really need somebody in that position, or at least more people in that room that can really bring a health equity lens to ensure our most vulnerable communities, whether it's the disabled community, chronically ill community, people with long COVID, are thought of first whenever we're moving forward in this next phase of the pandemic.
Look, we've heard the president say at times, he said in December he could do better. I know that he'll be listening to folks like you, Kristen. And thank you again. We're thinking of you and your family. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.